Once upon a time, in a small village in Indonesia, a legend was born. It was said that a ghostly figure known as Pocong haunted the land, and the villagers would shudder at the mere mention of its name. Pocong was believed to be the spirit of a person who had died, but whose soul was unable to leave the earthly realm. The legend of Pocong had been passed down from generation to generation, and it was believed that those who encountered it would suffer a terrible fate. Some said that Pocong would appear to them as a white figure wrapped in a shroud, hopping around on its feet since it had been buried in a tight-fitting cloth. Others claimed that they had heard the sound of its eerie laughter echoing through the night. One day, a curious young man named Adi decided to investigate the legend of Pocong. He had always been fascinated by the supernatural and was determined to prove to the villagers that the ghost did not exist. Armed with a flashlight and a brave heart, Adi set out into the night, determined to find the truth. As he ventured deeper into the forest, Adi heard strange noises around him. The leaves rustled and the wind howled, but he could also hear something else. Was it the sound of footsteps? Adi started to panic, but he forced himself to keep moving forward, his heart pounding in his chest. Suddenly, Adi saw it, a white figure hopping towards him. It was Pocong. Adi tried to run, but it was too late. The ghostly figure had caught up with him, and before he knew it, he was enveloped in a cold shroud. Adi screamed, but no one could hear him. He was trapped in the realm of the dead, with Pocong as his only companion. From that day on, the villagers would tell tales of the young man who had dared to challenge the legend of Pocong and who had paid the ultimate price for his curiosity. The legend of Pocong lives on, and to this day, the villagers still believe in its power. They say that if you ever encounter Pocong, you must never look into its eyes, or it will capture your soul forever. Years went by, and the legend of Pocong continued to haunt the small village. People made sure to avoid the woods at night, and parents would tell their children scary stories about the ghostly figure. However, there was one person who was not afraid of Pocong, a young girl named Sari. Sari was a brave and curious girl who had always been fascinated by the supernatural. She had heard the stories about Pocong since she was a child and had always wondered if the legend was true. As she grew older, her curiosity only grew stronger. One night, Sari decided to venture into the woods to see if she could find any evidence of Pocong's existence. She packed a backpack with supplies and set out into the darkness, determined to uncover the truth. As she walked deeper into the woods, Sari heard strange noises around her. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, but she kept moving forward. Suddenly, she saw it, a white figure hopping towards her. It was Pocong. Sari froze in fear, but she remembered the stories her grandmother had told her. "Never look into its eyes," she whispered to herself. Sari closed her eyes and turned away from Pocong, waiting for the worst to happen. But nothing happened. When Sari opened her eyes, Pocong was gone. She looked around, but there was no sign of the ghostly figure. Sari realized that she had been brave enough to face her fears, and she had survived. From that day on, Sari became known as the girl who had confronted Pocong and lived to tell the tale. She shared her story with the villagers, and they began to see Pocong in a different light. Instead of fearing the ghostly figure, they started to see it as a symbol of bravery and courage. The legend of Pocong still lives on in the small village, but now it has a different meaning. It represents the power of facing your fears and the bravery it takes to do so. And for Sari, it will always be a reminder of the night she overcame her fears and became a legend in her own right.